So this is a Yamaha TTR250, and my guess is you've probably got one of these, or maybe you're thinking of getting one. It's a great all-round dirt bike. One of the problems that comes up with these though, and it's quite a common problem, is something called the Sprag Clutch. And this is the old one that I've just pulled out and replaced, which was shot. And in this video, I'm going to show you what to look for if you think your Sprag clutch is on the way out. And I'm going to show you how to replace it using only pretty basic tools. And believe it or not, the axle out of the rear wheel, which happens to be the same thread as the puller that you use on the flywheel to get it off. So the first job is actually to take the axle out of your rear wheel, the castellated nut, split pin, usual arrangement. Bang that out. We'll be using that to help to get the flywheel out later on. So first off then, here's the first things to look for if you think your Sprag clutch is on the way out. So the first thing you're going to hear is when you try to kick it over, you can hear the starter motor ticking over. And the second thing you're going to hear is when you press the electric start, you hear a very metallic clunk. Today you know what to look for, let's fix it. Oh, so let's get into it, as they say on the internet. What's the other thing they say? They say, without further ado, as though they're in some sort of Shakespeare play. So, look, we're going to take off the chain guard. So, end mill socket, not even tight. We'll whip that off. That's a good start. This is the bit now where I do the speeded up camera. The screwdriver is better for super speediness. There we go. Alright, that's good. They're all the same length, so we don't need to worry about that. We'll just stick them in there so they don't get lost, because it's all about being methodical, you see. Made in Japan. 6-speed box. Very nice. Next. I'll whip this cover off the starter motor and have a look. Okay, so that's tough to get off. I wonder why. And then pull and see. Oh yes. Oh look, we have shenanigans. Ooh, and a bearing. Oh, we need to be careful here, don't we, Mark? Yeah, so we'll put that to one side with the screws all together. Another one there, look at that. There's a bit of Loctite on there. Oh, the sun is shining and it's causing some problems with my visuals. Okay, look, it's always a good idea to wipe stuff over. I should have given this a good clean really before I started. But this isn't too bad, this bike, so she'll be right. But when we put it back together, we will be very careful that we don't get any muck on any of the gaskets or mating surfaces, because of course we do not want any oil leaks. So that's all good. Now, and look, I know it's very tedious to go around with a Allen key all the way around, but what I like to do is loosen them with an Allen key, like so. Speed up the video so it's not boring, and then we'll get ourselves a little bit of cardboard. I like to do that, and put them where they're supposed to go so it's easy to know later on, because they're all different lengths, these bolts, no doubt. Big starter, sort of cross-headed thingo there, and then we got 1, we got 2,
We got 3, we got 4, we got 5, we got 6, that's okay. That's noisy.
Got on here, and that's it. Now, I know you can do it with an Allen key or if you've got one, but go and get yourself a screwdriver set like that. If I were you, makes things a lot quicker. We'll go for a number 5 because that's what it is, and get yourself a cheap cordless drill. Set the torque to lowest possible, reverse, and just make your life a lot easier and quicker. And pop them in as you go around so you don't get them mixed up like that. That's the easy way. Right, so that's been a bit stubborn. We'll use a tyre wrench behind the casing and just gently, we're not talking about doing it tough, we're just gently easing. Ah, there you go, it's moving now. Just go quietly. I'm aware that there's a bearing here, so you've got to be very careful not to put too much side pressure on that. I'll keep the pressure going that way. I know it's getting very loose indeed. That's better. Oh yes, there she comes. Now, there's a wire moving back there too, so we need to be careful about that. See that bearing coming out of there now too. What's going on down here? Something's holding this. Bits of muck falling down. Yeah, there's a wire. And all is revealed. There's a wire, and this must be the alternator stator. And then there's a bearing. There's an idler gear there. Look, we'll take that off. There's a cog behind there too. Now, the big cog goes at the back mark, and that goes into a needle roller bearing too, which is on the flywheel. So this is good videoing it because it shows you how to put it back together again. So yeah, the thinner one, which is bigger, diameter slightly, I think, yeah, slightly, goes at the back. Remember that. And I think I can see a little shim washer on there too. Yeah, look, there's a shim washer there. We'll watch out for that. And there's the one on the back too. Yeah, look, shim washer. So don't lose them. We'll put that to one side safely somewhere. Okay, so things I've noticed. So I'm going to just balance that on there precariously. I'm going to actually get some bungee strap and just to hold that out of the way so it just stays in place. Things I've noticed. First of all, naughty mark. Can you see all this muck? I should have really, mind you, it's really hard to get to that. But we're gonna have to be, we don't want all this crap falling into the engine, so we're gonna we'll keep all this cleaned up and be very careful. So I'm gonna put a rag in here after and just clean it all up. The idler gears and the starter motor looks in good nick, and that's what happens if the Sprag clutch disintegrates or really stuffs up and jams. You can ruin all the main flywheel, so that's spinning all right, but it won't go the other way. So at the moment it's free. But that's okay. The starter motor splines are good. The idler gear splines are good. So far so good. So all will be revealed, but now it's time for a cup of tea and then we'll come back to it. Alright folks, so after much fiddling about and trying different things, this is what I found works to get this flywheel off. You're going to need a 28mm spanner. That might be a big ass. You're going to need a little shifter. And you're going to need a 5mm Allen key. Now, As you know, there's 6 little Allen keys bolts to come out, and they're really tough to get out. I've seen pictures on the internet of people putting when they've managed to get the flywheel off somehow, and maybe they had a proper puller, and they've put the Sprag clutch in a vise. Now I don't like the idea of that because it might damage the teeth on the wheel at the back there. So what I thought I would do is slacken them off beforehand while it's in the machine, and use this spanner here so it's just nice and easy to get to. So here is how I'm doing that. So I couldn't get the Allen key in there because it's too short. I tried an extension with an Allen key bit in it, and it just didn't feel like, it's too weak. I didn't like it. So this is the strong way of doing it, I found. You might find another way, but this is the way I succeeded. So I've got my big spanner holding the flywheel, and I've got my shifter on there, and all I've got to do is turn that till I feel that bolt crack. It'll crack. That's how it releases. So I'm just putting constant pressure on that until I feel it go, which it did a little bit then, a bit more. Shit, that's tight. And that one's gone. So repeat 6 times. Okay, so that's got those loosened off, all 6 of them, just cracked loose. Now the next step is to remove 2 of them, which I've just done. So remove 2 of the little screws that hold the Sprag clutch on to the flywheel, and I'll take a picture of that. So let's shift the camera so you can see. There are, look, 2 of them have been removed. Okay, next plan. Okay, get yourself a little Allen key or a little screwdriver, and then poke it through the hole of one of the Allen keys you've taken out. Now that's all the way in, and you pushed it in about an inch or so, and what you'll feel is this, as it spins around, it's got 4 spokes on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in, there's one there, so I'm going to push that against the cog. So I'm going to lever off the back of that cog on one of the spokes, and you'll see when it comes off, you'll see what I mean. So what you need is to get yourself, I found these 2 bolts which are the same thread as one of the Allen keys that came out. And I know they're different lengths, it doesn't matter. The point is they're longer. So that's your first step. Now widen those in until they butt up against one of the spokes on the cog at the back. Okay, so that's got both of them in. And now the idea is, and they're tricky to get in because there's magnets in here, and they want to pull the thing off all the time, off to one side. So you've got to be careful. Well, you guys it's just fiddly. All right, we're winding them in. So that's that. Now once you've got them in, and when I take this off, you'll see what I mean about how I'm just doing this. I'm redoing it to show you what I did to get it off, because there was a lot of trial and error and a lot of mucking about. But that's locked now, because those 2 bolts there are now up against the spokes of this cog. So I'll just show you again with the camera. There you go, 2 bolts, and you've still got the other 4 Allen keys in there, the original ones. So that's all set up now, ready to go. And of course the idea of this, I'll put the axle back in, because as I say, we're not doing this, we haven't got a puller, and I did try and tap this, didn't work. Tried to heat this up with a hot gun, didn't work. I didn't want to get, I know the next stage is to go to an air chisel, which I could do because I've got one, or you could use a power drill with a chisel action on it. I've got one of them too. But I didn't want to go to that. That's like the last resort for me. I want to see if I can do it a little bit more delicately, because obviously we're messing with something here which you don't want to damage. I certainly wouldn't go for the lever behind there and lever it off option, which I saw somebody suggest on the internet, because you're in danger of damaging the soft alloy, and I think that's a terrible idea. So the axle's gone back in now. Now the idea, of course, now is that you do that axle up. And I've been using these grips. You could just use mollies, but these are really good. I find these are great. They don't slip off. And the idea, of course, is to, in essence, we're going to use our spanner, 28mm spanner, to hold the hub, and then we're going to turn the axle to act as a podder, and that actually released. I felt it release, and that's come off. Look, you can see it. But when I actually did that for real before, when I was playing, is I just very carefully did each of those nuts and tightened that. Did each of those nuts, just not even a 1/16 of a turn. Just ease, 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 ease. And in the end it just popped off like that. Very, actually quite effortlessly, which was nice. And without damaging anything. So let me just pull that off now, and then I'll show you one more thing. You can see the Sprag clutch there, and you can see the two extended bolts pushing through. They've acted like little pullers, except they've been pushers, of course. And this has acted as a puller as well. You've had your three working together, and that's got that off nicely. And now if I move the camera again, you'll actually see where that, can you see, there's a, get a bit more light in there for you. There you go. So I don't know if you can see those indentations. See those little scratch marks there, look, there. And there's one on top as well. And that's where they pushed off. See, that's what I mean about the spoke thing on the back of this this little wheel here, is you've got to get those bolts onto that spoke, because if you miss and you go in the gap, you're going to lever off the back of the crankcase. Look, that might actually work, but in some ways it might even be better. But I got lucky, I think, that I hit those, and it certainly worked for me. It worked really well. So I'm happy with that. So those are the challenges, folks, with this job. I think the rest is going to be plain sailing, to be honest, because I've loosened those Allen keys off, those 5mm Allen keys. I've loosened them already. I've got 2 out, and I've got 4 to get out. Piece of cake. Replace the Sprag clutch. Very good. That doesn't have to come out. That can stay there, can't it? I don't think I'll mess with that because you've got bearings and things involved here. Just check there's no play, which there ain't. And the teeth look good. Look great, actually. So we are happy chappies. Yes, we are. Okay, so yeah, be advised, those are really tight. Those 3, well, they were in mine, 6 of them, and they were all really tight. And I think that is the way to go, is to undo them while they're still on the, or just loosen them at least, crack them loose while they're still on the bike, and then you're not going to have any worries about putting things, you don't put things in vices. That's the last one out, 6 of them. So now that all looks okay in there. We shall see the Sprag clutch situation. Here it is. Turn that to the camera. Sprag clutch. Look at the old one. I mean, even though that was clunking really badly, it doesn't actually look that bad. I'll pull that off. What we got? Here it is, the old Sprag clutch. The other thing we'll do is have a look at this and see what that looks like. It actually looks in really good condition. Apparently, if there's any scoring or anything like that, any damage to the cogs, you need to replace all that, which is big bucks. So the earlier you catch a Sprag clutch going, the better. This is the old Sprag, and I'm looking at that and I can't see an awful lot wrong with that, but I do know it was clunking, and I do know that my kickstart was jamming on the starter motor. So it's an easy replacement. Here's the brand new one, which comes with a retaining plastic insert, which we shall push out, and hopefully it won't all go springing everywhere, which it doesn't, so we throw that away, no doubt. Actually, I might keep that for later. And then I'm looking at the other one now. What do we know? The whole thing is solid. It's a similar design. Goes in some direction. think the only thing, oh yeah, no, look, there's loads of flex in there. That's really flexible and worn. You can feel, you can't see that very well, but there's a lot of flex in that. Now this, that's as tight as, the whole thing is tight. Yeah, it's a big difference actually. That's very tight. Wow. Now there's a big difference between the new one and the old one, which is really rattly and actually falling apart. I wonder if that's meant to come out like that. That's actually falling out of there. And I can imagine if that all fell apart inside your flywheel housing there, it'd make a hell of a mess. I'm not going to fiddle with that anymore because that's shocking. That's all falling to bits. Yeah, that's terrible. And this is as tight as, I won't say what, I've got a terrible expression for that which I'm not going to elaborate on. That's good. Right, we'll just change it and see how we go. Set that to the lowest clip you can, speed 1. And we'll do all those up nice and quickly. And then what my plan is once I've got the flywheel on, I'm going to do them up really tight. So again, I'm not endangering anything by putting it in a vise. If you do have to put it in a vise, I would recommend you put some rags around the outer casing. But for me, when you've got magnets and you've got cogs and things like that, they don't generally agree with vices. So I'll do that. So that's minimum torque on that. I'll tighten them up properly. Okay, so that's the Sprag, new Sprag in. Just before we put it back on, we're going to put a bit of oil on everything, just so it's all nice and lubricated. Now we're going to line up the woodruff key, which is there, and there's a little groove there. Make sure that's lined up, and make sure the woodruff key doesn't fall out, because if it did, that would be a disaster. Wiggle, wiggle, push, push, and it's on. It is located. And oh yeah, that's totally different. You can feel there's no play in that at all. That's good. All right, now we'll get the nut back in. Where is it? Big nut. Guys, tempting to put some Loctite on that, but I won't because it didn't have any on it before. So we shall do it up to the recommended torque. Okay, so let's torque these bolts up. Always click twice when you're torquing something. I've got another little torque wrench here for the Allen keys, which I've got 6 of to do. And this is 10 Newton meters on each one. And we'll do that 6 times. Next little challenge, of course, is getting this old gasket off, which is caked on there. Look, this is one of these jobs which will test the patience of a saint. And what I use is just trying to get the old gasket off, and this is a particularly stubborn gasket. Now, what I use, a little bit of carburetor solvent cleaner. Use acetone or anything you like, really. That helps to soften stuff up. But what you should be using is on aluminium, like this, is aluminium block. So get yourself some aluminium block from somewhere. This is an old pipe guide which I had lying around. And then what I did was I've cut it into cut an angle off like that and formed it into like a wedge-shaped scraper. So that means that if it's aluminium on aluminium, there's no danger of scoring the surface of that casing, which if you were using something like a knife or a Stanley knife, a blade or metal, you know, you're in big danger of damaging it. And as I say, usually that comes off a lot easier than that, but you can really dig that in as hard as you like, and you're not going to damage it. So it's a good little tip. So all you do is inch by inch, just softly. I mean, it could take you up to something like this, half an hour, or even longer, an hour maybe, depending on how thorough you want to be. Scourer is a good thing. I use these little scouring cloths again from some of my plumbing stuff that I've got, but you could use the wire wool as well, and just go steady, inch by inch, as you go around. The other thing is, if you look on the top of there, you'll see there's so I've gone around now, I'm always 3/4 of the way around now. Just up here where the wire goes into the casing, there's a rubber bung. Now obviously there's going to be a gasket which is going to go on there, but I'll also put a little bit of automotive sealant on there as belt and braces, just on that bit to make sure it doesn't leak. And then I'll put the gasket on top. When I put the gasket on top, I put a little bit of grease, just a little smear of grease on the casings, because it's always this thing of trying to make the job easier for the next bloke, and the next bloke might be me. So I want to be able to get the casing off without damaging the gasket, or at least if I have to take the gasket off, it'll come off easily. I mean, this has probably been on there for 15 years, the age of the bike. But anyways, a couple of little tips. But yeah, aluminium wedge, that was an idea I got off one lad on YouTube, which has worked really well. So yeah, little tip for you. Alrighty, we'll give that a little bit of a blow off. Very nice, thank you. To make sure there's no muck in any of the holes or anything after scraping all that horrible gasket off. That's all nice and clean now. We'll put on some of this, only a little bit of automotive sealant. Just put that on there as a bit of belt and braces. And then what I like to do is get myself a little bit of grease. Just go around the gasket with a little smear all the way around. Again, it's a case of not going too wild, it's just a film of grease very lightly on the new gasket, so that it'll be easy to get off. And it also, believe it or not, it does help to seal any little oil leaks as well once you've tightened everything up. And the added bonus is when you put it on, it sticks to the casing so it doesn't fall off. So we'll stick that on the engine casing, make sure that's all clean as well. There's a little bit of muck on there, we'll get that off. Because cleanliness is next to godliness, Beautiful, Mark, beautiful. Alright, so now we'll pop these little dowly bits back in. So locator dowels, don't forget them. And finally, that goes on like that. The lightly greased gasket. Oh, look at that, isn't that beautiful? I can hear a chicken in the background there. Again, got a little idler gear which we'll pop in. Big cog in first. Got the shim on there, that's all good. And now that can go back on, can't it? Nothing else. That's it. Correct. Job's a good one. And it jumps back on. Make sure that lead isn't getting snagged up in any way. Wiggle, wiggle. Tap, tap. And we'll make sure we give it a little light tap with a rubber hammer. That's good. All high. Right, we'll pop the screws back in with our cardboard template. Speed the film up, Mark. We mustn't forget this screw, the hidden screw, which is in this little casing. But this is the only one I'm going to put some a little bit of blue Loctite on, because it had Loctite on it originally, and I shudder to think of the consequences of that coming undone in there would cause some problems. So beautiful. Tighten it up. Again, you can't get that on there, so you're going to need to get a shifter. And I'll just tweak it up a little bit. And that is beautiful. Now, so we'll pop the bridging gear back on with the little needle roller bearing there. A bit of oil on that. Lots of oil, doesn't hurt. I need to locate this very carefully, and that pushes in like that all the way home. And now finally we've got to put the cover back on. So there's an oil seal on there. I don't have a new one of those, so we'll see how we go. Hopefully it'll be alright. If not, I'll have to order a new one. It's only 3 bolts to take it off. Line that up and push it on with the Yamaha in the upright position. Nice. Beautiful, look at that. Last 3 little screws. And finally the little chain guard which goes on the front here, which goes, made in Japan, there like that. That's it. Oh, it's a little bit tricky to get in. The gear lever is in the way slightly. There we are. Right. 3 screws, all are the same size. And we'll pop those back on. Now all that's left to do is put the engine oil back in, and it will be the moment of truth. So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to give it the old kickstart treatment first. We'll have the ignition off for this. I just want to see if it's binding or not, which I'm sure it won't be. It'll be wonderful. Here we go. There's a difference between where we started. Here we go. That's good. You can hear it's not binding up on the starter motor. Put the ignition on and we'll give it a whirl on the button. Upright right, since it's been stood for a bit, get the oil down properly. Beautiful. Job done. That wasn't too bad a job at all, actually. Probably the worst parts was doing the flywheel, getting that off. The 6 bolts which were holding the Sprag Clutch on, that was a bit of a tricky job to get those undone. And getting the gasket off, that was just the trial of patience really. So yeah, no, I recommend have a go at it. So certainly save you a lot of money. So yeah, if you found this video useful, like, sub and push the bell, because that costs you nothing and certainly helps the channel. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.